edition of Pixel's digital entertainment reaching a new peak. My name is Neha Gadi, and I'll be your host for this session. Thank you for joining us. Before we kickstart the discussion, we would like to thank our title partner, Voot, Platinum partner, Amazon Prime Video, CX partner, Zendesk, content delivery partner, Limelight Networks, Gold partners, Lionsgate Play, and Shimaru Entertainment. And now I would like to introduce you to our keynote. We have with us Tarun Katial, founder and CEO, eWorld, speaking on responsible AI, balancing externalities and growth. Over to you, Tarun.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to IMAI to give me this opportunity to talk about a subject that is really close to my heart. Balancing externalities and growth, responsible AI, responsible social media. Really, all of us are fascinated with what AI and ML can do for us, right? We always talk about how recommendation engines are personalizing the digital experience for everybody today. They're making sure that both from a demand side and a supply side, there is a serious amount of growth that is being delivered to businesses. And our entire thinking is how do we deploy AI ML on an ongoing basis to be able to do one thing, which is personalization at scale. Now, personalization at scale seems like a really good idea, but the problem with personalization at scale is that what do you do when your personalization engine cannot actually differentiate from what is good or bad for the audiences? And why am I saying this, right? You must have read a lot about what is happening with recommendation engines across um, Facebook and across Instagram and many other platforms and companies who are using user behavior, user consumption data to be able to set growth goals for themselves. Now, if I'm a user who is not in such great mental state and have come onto a platform looking for content that matches my mental state, which is slightly depressive, slightly pensive, slightly on the edge, and I start my user journey on the platform by consuming content like that. What is the content that will get recommended by machines and by AI post watching what my consumption habits are? More likely than not, you're going to get more and more depressive content, more and more cynical content, more and more almost on the edge suicidal content recommended to you. And AI, unfortunately, is not being trained in semantic or collaborative engines to be able to differentiate between the quality of content, the context of the content, what the context of the user is, and how much and how far should you take somebody down the rabbit hole. This is the real problem of where AI is deployed to be able to personalize your experience, but unfortunately could actually create a huge challenge for most poor mental state users in the long run. Now, over the years, people believe that social media has allowed us to build connections. Social media has allowed us to be able to find our friends. Social media has also allowed us to find content that is best suited for us. As most of the social media that is run on AI ML has recommended both connections as well as recommended content to other people, as well as recommended content to us, it's it's unable to draw the line on what is good or bad for us. There was a really nice BBC study done, and I recommend that most of you guys read it. The title of the study is "I Get Abused and Threatened Online. Why can't it be stopped?" And it talks about the level of misogyny and the level of trolling that women get on the platform, on any social media platform, which is far ahead than what men get. And the way BBC and the report and the journalist has broken this down is that they've looked at how user behavior on the other side, which is the guys who are trolling and are putting out misogynistic comments, that user and his recommendations lead him to doing this. So if a user engages more with some kind of content, is continuously putting out hate messages, hate crime, misogynistic messages, unfortunately today, AI will recommend that user more of such content where that user has more opportunity to be able to put more hate on his or her timeline. So one thing is that the AI is measuring content consumption, but the other thing is that AI is continuously measuring your engagement levels and then recommending to you what are the kind of posts that you should engage with more, which are similar to the kind of posts that you engage with. So what the missing point on this entire AIML journey is that what is the quality and the context of that engagement? You cannot possibly encourage people to be able to do more and more disturbing engagement, more and more disturbing comments, and encourage them with more and more content where they can explore their misogyny even more. These are the kind of things that AI tends to forget, and unfortunately, AI models are not increasingly trained about because they are trained around one single thing, which is increasing growth, increasing session time, increasing retention. At what cost and of whom and for how long are not the questions that today's social media and the AI algorithms are answering very well. I'll give you a very simple example. Should you at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night continue to work through your algorithm and keep recommending to users more and more such kind of content, or should you start to put a night shutdown option on responsible social media through your algorithm? Is it possible to be able to look at content moderation by day part? Because it's now documented that most amount of trolling and misogyny happens at a certain day part in the night with most typical user personas. How do you really moderate using AI disturbing reactions to users' posts and unnecessary trolling that happens around women? How do you really solve for creating the entire false sense of self-worth, right? And a lot of platforms which started off as platforms by photographers where you only looked at beauty as a filter, unfortunately forgot that perpetuating an entire ecosystem where your self-worth and identity is getting measured by how pretty or how interesting your picture looks can lead to people finding real mental health issues because they worry about their own self-worth and their own individuality. So some of these goals which are purely set around and and increasingly around more and more engagement, more and more advertising to be served to these users, more and more session time need to be really looked at to saying, hey, are we only just looking at scrolling? Are we looking at average session length, or are we also looking at emotions, or are we also looking at the way people should behave and the way people should act? Are we looking at action prediction? Are we looking for models which can go deep into mood and personality, or are we so singularly minded around our growth goals? Psychology, human psychology, its behavior needs to now start to come into technology. And for all my work at Kellogg's with my digital transformation course and my recommendation in AI course, I think the one thing that I learned with 2 years at Kellogg was that now is the time where responsible AI and responsible social media can actually put a halt to some of this rabbit hole effects that we've created over the years with social media. The other thing that we must put our effort behind is fake news, fake propaganda, uh, and building truth as the hallmark to most content that comes onto these platforms. So, are we willing to put our hand up? Are we willing to put a negative list, which even reduces engagement on the platform but keeps people safe? Are we encouraging people to be able to moderate their own social media and gaming usage? And are we willing through AI to encourage genuine behavior and even physical offline relationships with people? Are we willing to be able to solve for self-worth, or at least build an awareness that you are not your social media identity? Are we willing to be able to limit usage even though it may hurt our business, but in the long run will keep people more and more healthy? These are questions that we can deploy AI and ML very, very successfully towards. I think positive reinforcement, persuasive technology for positive thinking needs to, and persuasive design needs to be used in a manner that users today can find themselves more happier, more healthier, and in a good mental shape, rather than AI leading people down a repetitive amount of recommendation that can hurt your mental health. So these are some of the topics I really wanted to talk about. As we go on to build Eve, which is a responsible social platform for women, where we want to get women away from so much of this misogyny and trolling and the kind of propaganda that is gender biased, hugely gender biased. These are questions that we've raised to ourselves, and I'm hoping and increasingly, happy that the world at large, the the entire U.S. Senate, as well as the scrutiny that the world is putting both AI, ML, as well as social media under, is going to at some level lead us to answer some of these questions much better. So I'm not really cynical about AI. I think AI can be deployed to good use. And personalization is a good thing to do, but it should be done within bounds, and we should let people really be human beings rather than people modeled over AI. Thank you so much, and thank you, IMAI, to give me this opportunity. Back to you, Neha.
Thank you so much, Tarun. It was genuinely a very, very, interesting and a very informative talk. So thank you so much for sparing your time for this, and thank you, audience, for being here. Stay tuned for the next session and stay safe.